Welcome to the University of Karate.
You are with the University of Karate, where we've come together again to examine the techniques, culture, principles, the theories, some of the rumors, as well as the science that comes together to form what we call the martial arts. We're again with Sensei Mike Biddle, who is a longtime practitioner of the style known as Uechi Ryu, also known as Pangai Noon in the Chinese. And we have been going through a number of talks concerning the kata of Uechi Ryu, especially the three foundational kata that were brought over from China, which are Sanchin, which means 3 wars, Seisan, which means 13 or 13 hands, techniques, and Sanseiryu, which means 36. And these 36 hands or 36 techniques are a mystery to the practitioners of Uechi Ryu today, largely. Most black belt practitioners, teachers, generally have no true solid concept of what this 36 means. Or some have even a challenge in looking at the 13 hands or techniques of Seisan. Or what are these 3 wars that are seen in Sanchin? Are there a war between the 3 kata, a war between the 3 animals, a war between mind, body, and intent? What are these kata that are also puzzles, mysteries that are to be unwoven? The idea that we're controlling the body and training the body is one thing, but that the study and the principles of the kata themselves are expanding the mind, our understanding, is a whole nother realm that Sensei Biddle is going to open or crack open the door for us to peek in and understand. Again, this part 3 dealing with the circle of kata in Uechi Ryu, and what is this concept of 3, 13, and 36, that we can understand some of this. Sensei Biddle, take it away.
All right, so this is going to be one of those challenging ones to talk about. Its explanation is fairly simple. Its application is a challenge. So we've talked about the circle of kata, how we moved from Sanchin to Seisan to Sanseiryu. And then Sanseiryu is supposed to do something. My instructor always said it's going to change the game, it'll break your brain, blah, blah, blah. So I learned Sanseiryu and I didn't really get that thing. Now, a couple of things happened. As I said earlier, I went away from the other forms, so I just stayed with Sanchin, Seisan, Sanseiryu. And the recap sort of, Sanchin is supposed to take you to Seisan, Seisan takes you to Sanseiryu, and the circle was rejoined by Sanseiryu taking you back to Sanchin. So I really didn't get there yet, but I was at I guess we could call it clinic. I don't know what word for it. And if you've listened to our other video about who we are in University Karate, this will actually make sense to you, because I'm going to use a name here that is preeminent in the Uechi Ryu style of martial arts. In this clinic, Master James Thompson, at that time he was a 7th degree, was at the clinic, and I benefited from being able to spend some one-on-one time with him. He went through with all my forms, all my kata, looked at all my stuff. We sat down and spent 2 hours at a park. I had questions, and he went through and answered every one of them. And we'll talk about that. There's implications there, but that's just a thing. But we went out to lunch one day, and it was a whole group of us, and we're sitting in the restaurant. And I wasn't next to him. I was a couple tables down, but I was listening to him, of course, because who wouldn't? As much as I could eavesdrop. I mean, this is Master Thompson in here, like the best of the best. I mean, oh man, he was good. And he's talking about Sanchin, Seisan, Sanseiryu, and he mentioned, Sanchin means 3. Well, I knew that. I heard that. 3 conflicts. That was always taught. And then he mentioned Seisan being 13, and he said, yeah, we know what that is, and that's he didn't go into any detail, but he said, we understand. He said, Sanseiryu means 36, and that's something that we don't really know. I'm like, well, that's curious. So I filed that away, and then later I had an opportunity to meet with him again. I asked him about that, and he said, oh yeah. He said, Sanchin means 3, Seisan means 13, and Sanseiryu means 36. I said, do we not know what that means? And he said, no, we don't. Now, here's what you've got to understand. At his level, I'm just this guy, this black belt. He wasn't going to give me the answer. So, whether or not he knew it doesn't really matter. I'm going to give credit where benefits due. He did. He just didn't want to say anything to me about it. But it set me on an interesting journey to figure that out. So I did say, so 13 Seisan. He goes, well, yeah, he says, find the 13 movements. And that's what he left me with. And I said, so the 36 in Sanseiryu. And he's like, well, yeah, just do it, whatever. And he didn't comment much. That was sort of the end of it. I was dismissed. And when you're dismissed by Master Thompson, you were dismissed. So that set me on a journey. What is 3, 13, 36? And I spent at least 10 years on this. Now, Sanchin is not hard. Now, I'm not going to go into some of the esoteric ideas of the 3 wars, the 3 conflicts, because there's physical expressions of all these. And that was what I wanted to understand first. You can't understand the concept of the greater idea of it until you understand the physical expression of it. So, what is the 3 movements in Sanchin? Well, there's 3 sets of movements. There's the Sanchin strikes, the double strikes, and the Maokis. 3. Done. Got it. Okay. So, Seisan 13. I found when I did Seisan, there's 13 sets of movements, 13 sequences. So a sequence could be circle block, chop, back fist. That could be a sequence. And if you do those, you can find 13 of them. There's 13 sets of sequences. And now, I don't know if everybody will find them the same way I did or see the same ways I did. It's hard to see. This is where it gets murky, but it's fine. Bear with me. So I found 13 sets of movements in Seisan. I could count them. I counted them, 13. So I went to Sanseiryu. Well, there's got to be 36 sets, 36 movements. Couldn't find 36. I always found less. 20, 18, 22. I didn't find 36. How do I get to 36? There's no way to get to 36. There's no way to get to 36. So it took me years. So then one night, I couldn't sleep, and I thought, all right, I'm going to do this 36 thing. I'm going to figure this out. This is it. So remember, this has been rattling around in my subconscious for a decade. What is 36? My subconscious is processing this. That's what your subconscious can do. We can talk about that other times, but it'll do it. So I got up one night, and I did the 3 Sanchin, 13 Seisan. Where am I going to find 36 in Sanseiryu? Then I'm standing there, and I open up in this Sanseiryu, and I do the first movement, which is a double figure 8 block. And I'm like, oh. There's less than 36. So like I said, all my expressions have been less than 36. I couldn't find 36. There's not 36 sets like Seisan. Seisan was neat. Sanchin is neat. And remember my story, if you go back and listen to the other videos about the circle of Kata, Sanseiryu is going to break your brain. It's not going to be neat. How do I get 36? So then I said, okay, I need more movements. I got to find more patterns. I got to find more sequences. So I started unbuttoning the sequence, because if you know the Seisan, you do a series of movements, you turn, you do a series of movements, you turn, you do a series of movements, you step, you do a series of moves. Those we bundle in sets, but you don't get 36. See, our brains want to pattern everything. This is why it takes time. I have to take my time, and I don't want to just throw that at you because I've got to get you to understand the concept of what this means. Our brains are wired to look for patterns, and we're really good at it. Because when leopards and things were coming after us, you'd want to see the stripes or the dots in the forest. And crap, leopard, run! Pattern recognition. Our brains are good at that. That's how we move. That's how we process the world, is pattern recognition. And there's a lot we can play with that in the martial arts, and martial arts plays with that. So the brain breaking thing of Sanseiryu has to be a pattern breaker. And that's what unlocked the key for me. Okay, stop looking at the patterns the way you've been looking at them. You've got to process these different. So now, this is the hard part to explain, but I'm going to go into it. I started breaking the patterns into smaller bits. So instead of, let me just give you an example. This is not exactly the pattern that how I did it, but let's say and you do a circle block, chop, back fist. That's a set. And then you do a turn. I'm just going to give you this isn't Sanseiryu, this is just going to give you an example. Let's say you do a circle block, chop, back fist, then you turn and you do a circle block front kick. 2 sets. I want to make 4 out of those 2. So I do circle block, chop, and then back fist, and I'm starting to move into my turn. And my back fist turn front kick becomes the turn, and the front kick becomes the set. It becomes the sequence. So what I had to do, and this is the easy way to say it, and I was up all night doing this. Once I unlocked the code, this was the code breaker. I had to split the movements. I have all these movements, and I have to join them into patterns that equal 36. So instead of a longer sequence, I made a bunch of shorter sequences. But when I did that, I couldn't do a sequence and then turn and do a sequence. I had to do, let's call it a subsequence, include the turn in the sequence and add the secondary subsequence, which then bled into finding the next subsequence, which all of them now started to contain moving, stepping at the same time, moving at the same time, turning at the same time, and the sequences started to separate. And as I kept doing this, and I'd start, rewind, I would work through, okay, this is a sequence, this is a natural sequence, and I'm breaking them up, and then I get 36. 36 subsets of sequence. I broke the main sequences down into subsets, and in order to join them in some sort of pattern, some sort of motion, I had to include the body stepping, the turning and the stepping and the moving in sequence with that transition. So now suddenly, my Sanseiryu was a living, moving creature of smaller segments that blurred into dragon. Yes.
It might help if I ask a question that kind of, because I'm listening and I'm kind of thinking what people might be thinking. So where in most of your kata you have a technique, like you said, a chop, a circle block chop, back fist, and then you turn and you do a circle block kick. So you think that would be 2 sequences. But you're saying that this turn, which is the separation between this first technique and the second technique, or first set, second set, you kind of blur that line, because as you turn, you already start doing the circle block as you're turning. So you kind of blur into a circle block as you're turning, and boom, now you're kicking. So it's like you're you eliminate almost the circle block because it's like you're turning and kick. So it's like almost just a kick. So you kind of eliminate that turn and then circle block into you're already circle blocking as you're turning. So you kind of lessen the number of techniques in some sense, but you're breaking it up. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, because what it's creating is joining the turning and the movement in the sequences. So now I'm in constant movement.
Constant. Oh, okay. So constant movement is also, to get 36, you have to be in constant movement, which is the riding the wind of the dragon?
Yes. Yes. You can't, because I look at this is the forms where we do them, I call them static. Do a set of movements, turn, do a set of movements, turn. How do you combine all those and move in a continuous movement pattern where they're joined? You do that by understanding that I join this movement with the step or the turn. And that leads me into the next movement with the step and the turn. So it becomes one flowing, constant moving pattern, one evolution of movement and form. There's not sets anymore, there's sequences. So when I wrote this all out for my own benefit, I wrote an article and the title of it is I called Sequencing the Forms. And then I called it Resequencing the Forms. So when you get the 36, now, and again, I'm going to leave this open for some interpretation because it's theoretically possible that, let me see what I want to say and I'll come back. It's theoretically possible that another person doing that would come up with a different 36. But that's fine. That's okay. Because that's the point. It's all right. Because your sequence could be a little different, but it's still moving you in this motion pattern, this movement pattern. My 36 established a set pattern of moving. So now I'm able to combine all the turns and the steps and the sequences into this continuous flow of motion. This unending, the static of it was gone. Now I'm moving with pure, constant expression of movement. And I don't know, I'm using a lot of words to say the same thing because this is a concept and it's not a principle. Concepts have to be experienced. Once you do this, you've evolved your form. You've gone to the end of the circle. The Sanseiryu has unlocked the code. Now what do I need to do with it? I went back to Sanchin. And using that sequence understanding, I resequence Sanchin. Now I'm turning and striking at the same time. And you got to think of it in just a simplistic term. Normally we do our arm strike, pull back, turn, arm strike. Now I'm doing my arm strike, I'm pulling and turning, and I'm around and I'm striking at the end of my turn. I've joined those into a sequence, a continuous flow. Now my Sanchin is a unending series of movements with no break. The static is gone. See, and the reason that this is important is because if you look at the Shaolin arts, they don't do static. They're moving. They have they don't do static. They're flowing. They're continuous flow. So why do we have static? Well, we do, and it's okay, but we need to get to the end of the thing, which is the not static, which is this unsequenced form. So the 36 unlocked a way of putting the techniques together so I could stay moving. Because that was one of my goals, was how do I make a static form a constant form? And if you look at some of the old Panganun styles, and John knows this, if you watch a Panganun Sanchin, it's not static. They're moving. They don't stop. See, they got that concept. That's where the concept exists. And I'll actually credit that to some of what John showed me a number of years ago. We met up and he had gone through some of this. and showed me that. And that resonated in my brain. How do I get there? Well, that was where the journey led into this. It's pieces of the puzzle, right? And that one night, 3 or 4 in the morning, after doing like 9,000 Sanseiryu, I was up all night doing them. When the code broke and I understood, resequence them. Then the battle was finding 36 in the sequencing, and as that did, that changed how I moved. That changed my stepping patterns. It changed. Now I'm doing strikes in directions that I never done them before. Because I may be doing the strikes as I'm moving into the next technique. It's over here, but I'm over here. I used to bring it to the turn. Now I'm bringing it into the transition, and then the transition is going into the next one. It removes the static. You can't do this and stop. You have to move because you've joined. The sets become the movements and the stepping and the turning and the motions. So when I went back to Sanchin, I resequenced my Sanchin. My Sanchin now became something different. Then I resequenced Seisan. And I took that again and I changed Seisan and I resequenced Seisan. I took the 13 out of it. So I put the same thing. I don't know what number. I didn't count numbers. I didn't care because I was beyond caring about that. I resequenced Seisan, and that became something new. And then I went to Seisan, Sanseiryu again. And I did it again. And I did it 3 times. Now, I didn't do it all that one night. It took me several weeks to do that. But I went through 3 sequences of this sequencing. And then when I got to where I all right, the eye-opening moment was, I just know how to move now. I can move the way I want to move. There is no sequence. That's when the sequence went away. It's all gone. No pattern. Sanseiryu, and I'll go back to what my instructor said, Sanseiryu needs to break the pattern, and it will break you. And it did break me. It broke me free. So now there's no pattern. Nothing. I'm free. I do what it doesn't matter. I can do the sequences, but I don't need to. I can do whatever I want. That set me on a new course where now I learned to move in an entirely new way. And then as I worked on that, that's where I got to where I said, I don't need patterns because patterns are predictable. Now I have no pattern. And that, if you go back to some of our videos where we talk about some of the Bruce Lee concepts and some of the things, that's the evolution of that. That's how I got there. Is now I don't know what I'm going to do. If I do a form, I'll go out in my driveway or my exercise room, and I just move. I don't know what that pattern is going to be. It just presents itself. And that's that evolution. That's how it broke me. It broke me down and it broke me free. Now, I don't know how to apply that to everything, any other styles or whatever. I don't know what that means. Now, there is Sanchin, Seisan, and a lot of other styles. And there's probably 36. There's probably Sanseiryu. It's a little harder to find. So you probably can find it. But in your style, if you have a different style, just think about this. See how this can change what you do. It's not a style, it's a philosophy, isn't it? It's a theory of patterns and not patterns. If you're doing Shotokan, you have this movement, this movement, this movement, and you do sets. You do sets. I've seen the katas. I know what they are. Don't do the sets. See if you can resequence them by combining, do what I did. Don't do the sets, break the sets up. I know you can find it it's just a philosophy. It's not a Uechi Ryu uniqueness. That's how I found it. And it was precipitated by the numbers and someone saying to me, Master Thompson, 36 means something, but we don't know what it is. So I was on a journey to figure out what that meant. And my instructor saying the circle of Kata, And you go through this process and it breaks you down and it opens up and then it takes you back. And then you just start this circle, and that's what it was for me.
If you're waiting for me to say something, you'll be waiting a long time. I'm just soaking it all in. If you don't like this video and subscribe, I don't know what. You might as well never come back here again, because, I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, if you haven't subscribed, share this with someone. You need to share this with someone. These things are giving us an understanding of the path, what we're trying to do. Bruce Lee was trying to do without kata. What Sensei Billo just showed us is the purpose of the end game of the kata.
Well said, yes. Well said.
So, yeah, I mean, hey, you're with the University of Karate, and hey, we'll just see you next time. I don't know. Bye.